What is going on, everybody? John Impemba here with Howard Bender. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NFL DFS show. It is week 17. Howard, believe it or not, we are already nearing the end of the NFL regular season. Just 2 weeks left, and then we get into some playoff DFS. But we got 13 games here. One of the largest main slates we'll have outside of the week 18, where everybody plays on Sunday. So how are you feeling about everything, man? You've obviously been on the watch list. Last week you took a little break, had me handle the DFS duties for everybody. We had a pretty good week here, but turning the reins back over to the master this week. How you feeling?
I feel pretty good. There's definitely some interesting things. Obviously, the things that you need to make sure that you're staying on top of are not just, what the softest matchups are, but who's got something to play for at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Which teams are packing it in and auditioning new players. Which teams can clinch a playoff spot. Like the AFC got a little tighter now with Cleveland actually clinching that playoff spot. Not to mention the fact that their record, is going to lock them into that number 5 seed. So the seeds below that, they're getting a little bit little testier now. And so, yeah, man. I mean, listen, I think that we've got some really super soft matchups for some great teams, which I think is where the lineup optimizers are going to point people towards for the most part. So I think what's going to be important for us here is being able to find those plays that, are in the other games that, people may not be recognizing as much. Cash games will probably be easy because everyone's just going to load up on a few games, but GPP tournament wins, that's going to be a different story.
Yeah, no surprise taking a look at the early ownership projections, seeing some of the top guys on those slates, given the matchups that you were referencing there. When it comes to weather this week, it's largely been pretty good. Obviously, this is an early look. Sunday by Sunday, everything could change when it comes to the weather, but we could see some snow and rain in Buffalo and Chicago. So something to watch out there on the Atlanta a Chicago game, and then the New England Buffalo game. They're obviously December in Buffalo can be cold, can be rainy, can be snowy. So some minor potential weather impacts for those games here this week. Let's just jump into it. We'll talk about the matchups. We'll talk about the high game totals as we go through it here. Taking a look at the quarterback position this week. Again, with 13 games, pretty much all the top plays are on the board here. The only game not on this slate is Detroit versus Dallas. That's your Saturday night, Monday night football main event. I don't know how they keep on promoting it there, but Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Tua, Fields, Stroud, the whole crew is back on the slate. So I did the quarterback coach here, and I kind of was very selective which way I wanted to go with the quarterbacks when it comes to spending up this week. I liked obviously Hurts in this matchup against Arizona. Said you can, he's one of the few guys that you just can play naked with the success of the Philly push there. The man is just a rushing touchdown machine, tied the NFL record for rushing touchdowns by a quarterback with 15, more than likely sets that record this week here. But what's your overall thoughts when it comes to this, 7K tier of quarterbacks, since we got 8 of them?
I mean, obviously, Hurts is definitely a major player here. I do like Mahomes at home. I know that, everybody, Mahomes is a good GPP play, right? He's not, Hurts, lock him in for cash games, lock him in for any games. Hurts is, he's in a great spot for himself, and I like that. And I like Mahomes for GPP tournaments because I do think that people will tend to kind of pull away, and not dive into that. It's kind of funny. I mean, I don't love Josh Allen here against New England. Belichick's got plenty of experience against him. And what's kind of funny is this Miami Baltimore game. I'm pulling back a little bit on Lamar Jackson because I'm saying you looked at that game between the Ravens and the 49ers, and you were like, wow, Baltimore just had this amazing game plan, and their defense is strong. They just thumped the 49ers, right? Well, the Miami Dolphins, Mike McDaniel, he's running that same offense. And so is that a treacherous moment here for the Miami Dolphins, or do we think that maybe Baltimore could get lured into some sort of sense of security? Because I don't know, maybe I just shouldn't be watching Hard Knocks ever at all. But like, I was sitting there and I had just come off of I think I had just come off the Fantasy Alarm show, and I was just trying to like sit and relax for a little bit. And I turned on the TV, and there it was, like a segment of in-season Hard Knocks, and Mike McDaniel's addressing the team. And I'm like, man, I love this guy, right? This guy he's smart, he's reasonable, he's sarcastic, he's funny as all hell too, which is a great sign that not only is he an intelligent person, but he also isn't, he doesn't take things so seriously.
Self-deprecating, all that good stuff. Yeah.
He's not really, and so, you look at that and you're like, well, Mike McDaniel definitely has something up his sleeve for Baltimore. He definitely watched that game and was like, yeah, well, I've got, if that's how they're going to counter this and that's how they're going to counter that, to kind of play around with it. So I'm not wholeheartedly into this game. I'm not in it on the Lamar Jackson side. And with Jalen Waddle out, because he's not playing, as much as I love Cedric the Entertainer Wilson, I will not be investing in Tua against this Ravens defense. So when it comes to that top, Hurts cash, Mahomes GPP, Fields is he's okay, but I'm not really. He doesn't have the weapons that you want. And DJ Moore, I don't even know what DJ Moore's health is like right now. But somebody just sent me a text this morning being like, "Ugh, DJ Moore."
He's got nothing. He's got no designations here that I'm seeing. Obviously, it wasn't a great week last week against Arizona when many thought it was going to be a smash spot for him.
Right.
Cole Kmet was the one that actually was a little bit banged up. He had the big week there. Fields still came away with 25 fantasy points because the rushing upside again, 9 for 97 in a rushing score. I like him in tournaments again just because he has that upside play. I think Stroud is kind of interesting. Obviously, missing 3 weeks with a concussion or 2 weeks with a concussion has you a bit worried, but he's been cleared, full practicing, home against Tennessee. Still has Nico Collins at his disposal. This might be a did you forget who I was moment for CJ Stroud. So I do like getting some shares of him. And then we talked in our Discord a lot this week. People are asking, what do we think of Brock Purdy here? Because Washington is so bad everywhere that this could be CMC running for 4 touchdowns, Purdy coming off of 5 interceptions, and he doesn't have the production. Or the flip side of that is he throws 5 touchdowns because Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk are just running all over the field against the Commanders. So how do you approach the 49ers offense in general this week? And do you have any interest in Brock Purdy?
McCaffrey, lock him in on cash. Like he's the highest expected owned player out there. I'm fine with that. Purdy, I would look at Purdy in a tournament. I would. He's probably not going to be my number 1 QB for tournament play just because of the CMC aspect. But I don't hate Purdy. I'm not going to sit there and look at what happened last week and be too concerned about his performance. So I'm fine with it. I think he's a good cash game play. I'm not going to push the chips all in here for him for a cash game if I have concerns that McCaffrey could run for 4 touchdowns.
I agree. Mid-tier range, Stafford, one of my favorite plays again this week. Week in, week out, you're getting 20 plus fantasy points out of Matthew Stafford now, 4 to the last 5. The one he didn't, he still gave you 18.5 with 2 touchdowns there against Washington. Now he's got the Giants. We know the Giants secondary, not all that great. They got to cover Puka Nacua. They got to cover Cooper Kupp here. Demarcus Robinson's making plays for them now. So Stafford at $6,600 feels like a nice little bargain given the current run that he's been having.
Yeah, I like Stafford a lot. I dropped Jared Goff and added Matthew Stafford in a season-long championship game. So I feel good about him. Obviously again, yes, like the Giants are one of those. It's so weird. The Giants are one of those teams, those defenses that like all of a sudden like they like show up.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, what the hell just happened here? Like against Green Bay, they just showed up against Green Bay couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
Can they do that with the Rams? It's possible. It's definitely possible. But I look at Stafford here, like you said, He's had one down week in the last, 6 or 7 starts.
Yeah.
And that one down week, he still had 18 fantasy points.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Healthy. Again, I was talking to this with James Grande. It's amazing what a healthy quarterback does for you. Last year, the Rams were one of the worst teams in football because they just didn't have Stafford. They get Stafford here, and they're a contending playoff team again. So him and then Baker Mayfield, not much more can really be said about the season he's had. 3,500 yards, 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Now he's home against Tampa Bay, home against New Orleans. Can certainly go right back to that Baker Mayfield well at $6,100 here, in that mid-tier range. What's your thoughts on the rest of the position, though? Because I looked around it, and if Jamar Chase plays, maybe Jake Browning becomes a little bit more appealing.
Chase isn't playing.
You don't think so? He's
limited. I know he put in a limited practice, and then every report I saw off of Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter afterwards just kept saying week 18.
Okay. Well, like I said, if he's in, maybe some rounding interest, but I didn't really love a lot of the value tier that was down here. I know we have, some backup quarterbacks. Jarrett Stidham is now starting at $4,500, I think. Mason Rudolph coming off of that huge game. Heineke's at 49. But are you, Brissett? Are you throwing any of these guys in the lineup this week?
No, probably not. I mean, if Cortland Sutton were back, maybe I would look at Jared Stidham, right? I mean, I don't mind. I actually like Javonte Williams a lot this week, just because I think that Stidham will end up with those checkdowns. I think Derek Carr at 5,500 is probably the lowest that I'm really willing to go. Going up against Tampa Bay, what we've seen from him is that it's grinding your gears for the first 3 quarters, and then all of a sudden he throws 2 touchdown passes in the fourth quarter, and he manages to salvage his day. So knowing that Tampa Bay's defense, whether they've got Carlton Davis and Jamel Dean or not, they still funnel everything to the middle of the field. They still get burnt deep. So I like Carr here with Olave. Even Rashid Shaheed is a guy who piques my interest as well.
Sure. Yeah. Listen, no arguments here. How you describe Carr reminded me of like Matt Ryan's end of Falcons tenure was like, 3 quarters, you're banging head against the wall. Then you look up, he's got 312 and, 2 touchdowns and everything's okay. Running back position, as you mentioned, Christian McCaffrey is our highest projected rostered running back. We got a couple of value-ish or mid-tier running backs that kind of pop after him in terms of expected rostership. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. A lot of people are waiting on the news, obviously, with Pacheco. Hasn't practiced yet this week. If he is out, CEH is your second highest projected running back down at $5,300. And then Ezekiel Elliott is actually your third highest projected running back this week with Ramondre Stevenson going on IR. He's got the Buffalo matchup, though. Speaking just on the rostership first, how are you feeling about, CEH in this spot, against Cincinnati, or Elliott against Buffalo this week?
Listen, I think both of them can pop. I would probably lean a little bit more towards CEH just because A, he's cheaper. B, we know that you can easily run on Cincinnati. Like, teams haven't been really forcing it, but I do feel like we could, even though Mahomes is one of those guys who wants to take over. I still feel like CEH is going to be, worked pretty heavily in this one here. I don't think Andy Reid wants to really screw around with this. He wants to go in there. He wants to get the win. He wants his defense to shore up, and he wants his team to perform, to come into the, to finish off the season strong enough that they've got some momentum carrying themselves into the season. So that's kind of where I'm at there with CEH. I like CEH. I mean, listen, with no Ramondre Stevenson, Ezekiel Elliott's going to get the work. He's definitely going to get the work. Will I use him as possibly like a pivot in cash off of CEH? Yeah, probably. There's not a huge, disparity between the two of them, in their workload. But we also have to see, are we going to get more value out of Zamir White?
Right.
He's listed here at 12.9% for DK. And that's high. If Jacobs is officially ruled out, given this matchup against the Colts, I think Zamir White ends up possibly even getting higher ownership than CEH.
Yeah, I would agree with that. He's a little bit cheaper there as well, $5,100 for Zamir White, coming off the 145 rushing game against Kansas City. And you're right on the Kansas City approach here. They go and they lose to the Raiders, and now they have to go in, face Cincinnati here. I can't imagine Andy Reid wanting to, mess around a little bit too much with that. Going back up to the top group here, you obviously Christian McCaffrey is your highest rostered player. No need to explain why that is. But Kyren Williams, Rachaad White, Alvin Kamara, Jonathan Taylor, that group right there. Obviously, Taylor last week got the touchdown right away, but didn't do too much after the fact. Kamara let some folks down, but White and Kyren Williams keep on performing at an elite level.
Kyren Williams is amazing, isn't he? It's really something else to sit and watch how this guy produces on such a strong basis. I mean, every week he's rushing for over 100 yards. One week I don't think he did, but he ended up with like over 100 all-purpose yards. Yeah. So I think Kyren Williams definitely warrants it against the Giants too. It's one of the reasons why I'm like, Stafford, but we've seen Kyren Williams dominate in games where Stafford still throws for strong numbers.
Yeah, it's funny because he generally is involved in the passing game, had no catches against New Orleans. He did have this weird game where he had 5 catches for 3 yards against the Commanders. But hey, those points count on DraftKings with the full PPR there. And then Rachaad White, again, just very involved in their passing attack. This was an absolute lock. His receiving yards prop against Jacksonville was 3.5. Like, Jacksonville allows the most receptions to running backs in the football, and Rachaad White's a pass-catching running back, so it didn't make any sense that the prop was so low. He goes out there, catches 6 for 38. Didn't have a great day running the football. We know that happens against Jacksonville, very staunchy run defense, but did still find the end zone. The Saints, for years, you couldn't really run on them, but their run defense lately hasn't been all that great.
Yeah, they've definitely been giving it up. I think that this game, this New Orleans Tampa Bay game, is definitely something that we're going to be exploring for every position, right? We said Baker, we said Carr.
Yeah.
We'll look at, I think a lot of people are looking at Kamara. We're going to definitely keep an eye on Rachaad White as well. I think the receivers are all in play. The tight ends might be the only ones who aren't in play as much as we'd like out of this game. So yeah, I think that Tampa, New Orleans is something where you want to be. Let me ask you this one here. This is the question. This is like the ultimate. Nope. Don't even show me Austin Eckler. That dude is a piece of garbage right now. I love Austin Eckler as a human being.
Yeah.
He is not somebody you want to use for fantasy.
All right. Well,
even against Denver.
I have something to say about him. Go to your guy first.
Why? What do you want to say about
Eckler? I cut you off. Go ahead. You tell me your guy.
No. Go ahead. Say what you want to say about Eckler.
All right. Here's what I'll say about Eckler. Last week, 65% of the offensive snaps is an uptick from the week before against the Raiders when they lost by 70. He had 15 for 65 on the ground. Not bad. I understand the passing game work hasn't been where we wanted it to be, but I'm at least encouraged that he got his usual snap count back, right? Because we were seeing that start to trend down a little bit, and we were worried about him being split. Now, he's not an 80% back like we wanted him to be at 65% last week, but Denver's run defense is very bad, and they are still throwing to him a little bit. So, I don't know. I think there's some tournament appeal to him there. Because a lot of people feel the way you feel about him. And I still think that there could be some potential against this Denver defense.
Well, who was right at the start of the season?
You've been correct so far.
Thank you. There you go. All right, so I'll throw this at you then, because then this will be great. Who do you want to use in a tournament more? Austin Eckler, who's been cockapoo all year long, or Derrick Henry against Houston, when all of a sudden this past week or 2 weeks ago was the first time in his career he's ever been held in check by the Houston Texans. They have a solid run defense. They've definitely shored that up. But it's Derrick Henry.
Yeah, listen, the Texans' run defense has definitely been a little bit better, and that has to do with, I think, the coaching. New personnel, new coach, a defensive-minded coach coming in. Probably saw that they were one of the worst run defenses in football for the last 3 years, and you know what? Not this year. We're gonna slowly improve. And for a little bit early on, you could run on this team. You couldn't really throw on them. That's kind of flipped since then. You can kind of throw them a little bit more than you can run.
Yep.
So I'm definitely worried about Derrick Henry, but if you think that, once again, no one's going to be on Henry because of what happened 2 weeks ago, not necessarily what happened last week where he actually had a very good game, then sure. I'm fine going back to the well in tournaments. I like that they're home in this spot here. Or sorry, they're on the road rather in this spot here. So I'm still okay with it.
I can't wait till you start sending me lineups again.
I'll send them to you, but I'm probably going to have Eckler in some lineups. So what are you doing with Bijan?
What are you doing with Bijan?
I don't know. I like that he had 7 catches in that game.
Dude, there's so much about it. Like, I mean, there's so many other players out there who just intrigue me so much more than Bijan. I think you know the Tiger Woods big dog meme that's been passed around. Yeah, I posted one of those the other day because I didn't know about him, but I posted one the other day, and it was Arthur Smith to fantasy owners right before he benches Bijan Robinson during week 17. Big dog.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, DeAndre Swift's in a big spot, but it's hard to trust him because of all the red zone work that gets taken away from him. He did score, obviously, last week, gave you 15 fantasy points. The volume of carries the last 2 weeks have been really great, too. 18 and 20 carries here, but
I like him as a tournament. I like him as a tournament play.
Okay. Yeah, again, great matchup. I can see it. It just sucks that he keeps getting tackled at like the 3. And then they're just like, all right, it's Jalen Hurts time, like so frustrating to see that's how they play that one. You have Joe Mixon. We know his involvement in the passing game. They can't really run the football all that well, but he does catch a lot of passes. Mid-tier range. I don't know. I mean, do you like any of this here? If Jacobs is in, do you have interest in Jacobs?
No, I mean, if he's in, I mean, I have to see what he does as far as practice. He didn't even show up for the walkthrough yesterday.
Yeah.
On Thursday. So I'm not all that enamored with it. I'm not enamored with Kenneth Walker going up against Pittsburgh, even though you can run on Pittsburgh. Walker's dealing with another illness. You still have Zach Charbonnet there. Zeke at 6,000. I like that. But, I would end up looking further down. Javonte Williams against the Chargers is probably where I'm going to end up kind of eyeballing for some value. Williams there, like I said, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, in that spot, Zamir White if Jacobs is out.
Sure.
Like that's kind of where I'm at. But then you kind of you scroll further down. And there's not a lot that I want to deal with. Like I don't want to invest in Chase Brown. Like that's a dart throw at best. I don't want to invest in Tajay Spears. I don't even want to invest in Justice Hill with Keaton Mitchell out. Like there's nothing about any of these guys at the bottom of the barrel here that really that kind of screams, hey, play these guys, and see what happens. Maybe would you go to Miles Sanders? Don't Leonard Fournette me.
I was waiting for you to look at the screen.
Leonard Fournette me. Would you Miles Sanders it if Chuba Hubbard's out?
It's such a bad run defense, but he could get the football in the passing game. He was getting a lot of targets early on, or such a good run defense. I don't know if I want to touch that one there.
Derek Gore is the contrarian play with Chris Rodriguez on IR.
No, I'm good. I will say that they didn't get Fournette did have 5 carries. No, I want to talk to you about the Pittsburgh running back situation. Jalen Warren's here. Obviously, we know what his pass catching volume has been. Najee Harris, though, is still cheaper. Limited with a knee, so I guess we'll see how he's been doing that. But better runner, found the end zone last week. Good price tag, only $5K. Seattle can't really stop the run. I kind of like the Pittsburgh. I think I like Najee Harris this week.
I don't mind Najee Harris this week. I like him better than I like Jalen Warren simply because Najee got the work.
Yeah,
Warren did not.
Warren's $500 more expensive, and Najee's got the carry. So. Over at wide receiver, again, I'm assuming you're not in on Tyreek Hill this week, if not being in on the Tua Baltimore matchup.
I think you always have to be in on Tyreek Hill.
That's fair. Guys bought bad knee, goes 9 for 99.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, I'm not going to lock him into cash game lineups, especially at that price tag. But in a tournament, sure. In my Jared Stidham, Denver Broncos stack, Jared Stidham with what, I don't know, Jerry Jeudy and Brian Johnson, or do I go Stidham, Javonte, and Brian Johnson?
Hey, Mims had 5 targets last week. Don't knock him out.
That'll enable me to get McCaffrey and Tyreek into the lineup together.
The age-old question: Kupp or Nakua?
Oh man, I gotta tell you, man, I don't like making that decision. I think that's basically I mean, there's only a $200 differential between the two. I think it's just a matter of what your price is.
Cooper Kupp had 2 drops in that game. One of them was definitely going to be a touchdown. The other one, he would have had to make a little bit more of an effort to get in there, but he was very close to just having 2 touchdown catches on his own. Wasn't able to hold on to the football. I mean, both of these guys obviously can score. So I agree with you. You can kind of just pick whichever one fits your build best.
I'll bet you Puka's more highly owned.
Yeah, probably off last week, right? Recency bias.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with you there. 2 touchdown catches for Mike Evans. I don't think Lattimore's playing, right?
Lattimore is not playing.
Yeah, so don't have to worry about him getting ejected and fighting somebody in this game, which is plus. I mean, the man just keeps producing, right? 2 weeks left to go. He's already got 13 touchdowns and 1,100 yards. Love him every week in tournament lineups. All of that plays for me. Devo at 77. If he's in, I'm in. What's your thoughts on Pittman? If Pittman's plays, do you have any interest? He's a full participant in practice, so he should be good to go here.
I mean, I do like him. I mean, it definitely warrants it. I'd probably just stick him into a GPP tournament lineup as opposed to a cash lineup, just because one hit and he gets knocked out, and I don't want to deal with that, especially when you're dealing with a team like the Raiders, and their defense is now coming off of back-to-back multi-touchdown games, really like shaking the tree a little, that all of a sudden you'll start seeing like Jack Jones, like, headhunt a little bit more.
Yeah.
You'll start to see them getting, like buying into their press and their hype. So, I mean, it's a tournament play, but nothing that I really want to dive into. I like Devontae Adams though in that game.
Sure.
Especially down at 7,400.
Yeah, such an up and down. I know he had the L'Jarius Sneed coverage, last week there. So obviously tough for a lot of guys. Don't love 1 for 4 there, but that's been his season, right? And he's still going to come out of it with 1,000 yards and like 95 catches. So okay in tournaments there. Devonta Smith obviously has been putting up some decent numbers, over 1,000 yards for him already this season. I'm upset that they bumped up Nico Collins' price here. I think solely on the idea that you would have had Stroud back this week, but I would certainly go here with Stroud back.
Oh, I love Nico Collins.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think, and Noah Brown will be a good pay down also, in this matchup. But yeah, Collins going up against this Tampa secondary, absolutely.
Yep. You got Ayuk down here coming off 6 for 113 at 7K against Washington. Rashee Rice against Cincinnati.
Super consistent.
Every week. And it took forever for them to give him the snap share he deserved, but he's been a very, very good rookie. Love the price tag. Love the matchup against Cincinnati here. If you had to pick one, would you rather pay up for Kelsey or pay $6,900 for Rice?
I would probably just pay for Rice.
Yeah. I kind of feel the same way.
Yeah.
Olave is $6,800.
Yeah, this whole tier is great. Like Olave, Rice, and Ayuk right next to each other. If Metcalf is healthy, this is where I want to live.
Yep. So Collins, Metcalf, Ayuk, Rice, Olave can plug all 3 with some of the value we talked about on this slate for sure. DJ Moore maybe a bounce back spot. Higgins will have Snead if there's no Chase. Godwin last week, another big target game for him. 3 straight weeks now, 11, 12, and 11 targets for Chris Godwin. I know you mentioned this game could be a little bit of a shootout. Maybe Godwin against Avante Taylor this week here. If there was a week for a big Chris Godwin week, right? Yeah. Would be the one at 6,100.
Very much into Chris Godwin this week. Absolutely.
Yep. Let's see. What's Adam Thielen been doing these days? Another 8 targets for him. Just target monster. 5,900 can't run on Jacksonville. You can throw on them.
Yeah, I just, you know what? I mean, I'm just not. I got to stay away from Carolina. I don't like Bryce Young. I don't like what I'm seeing. And you look at what they're doing. Yeah, he saw 8 targets last week, but what was the production overall?
Yeah.
Like
he didn't score. He didn't score. Chark scored 2 touchdowns, right?
It was 6 for 94, right? Yep. Then the week before that, 4 for 43, 5 for 74. So I mean, it's fine floor work for a cash game lineup if you wanted to just kind of save some money and have that floor. But I can't. There's so much about Carolina that I just don't like right now that I wouldn't do it. I would look to pay $100 more for DeAndre Hopkins, pay $200 less and get me some, Tyler Lockett.
Sure. Yeah. Lockett's pretty interesting. Another 11 targets for him. Good target share for Tyler Lockett. I liked him a lot last week as well. Him and Metcalf obviously continued to produce even with Geno there. You can throw a little bit on Pittsburgh. Flowers is interesting at 56. I know we don't love this game here, but
he's missed 2 practices in a row right now, Wednesday and Thursday with a calf issue.
Yeah, got to see Friday.
And he had the lowest snap share of his season last week also because he clearly injured his calf during the game and then hasn't been back at practice this week. So just something to be aware of.
100%. The pricing point for me, I think, was the appeal there.
Yeah.
Where are you at like the rest of this tier? Like, are we buying into what we got out of George Pickens? 4 for 195?
I mean, I think you have to, right? Mason Rudolph's just going to chuck the ball up and down the field. I don't mind that. Listen, I like Jacoby Myers here.
Okay.
Right. Against the Colts. I think he's a great PPR option. He's a great cash game play. Good high ceiling for him. Pickens is he's a GPP tournament play if he's going to get those, those deep passes there. And then I like Noah Brown, who's a couple of $100 cheaper than George Pickens. I think he's in a good spot as well.
Yeah, Brown lit up Tennessee 2 weeks ago with Keenum as the quarterback there.
Ugh.
Jerry Jeudy, if there's no Sutton, 5,100.
Yeah, I mean you have to look at him, right? You have to.
Yeah, what a disappointment Jerry Jeudy's been. You gotta get him out of Denver. I thought this dude was gonna be an absolute monster coming out of college. I thought he had the best hands of that receiving class. Thought he was the best route runner of that receiving class. And they stuck him in Denver when he had no quarterback, and then they got him Russell Wilson, and they gave him Nathaniel Hackett as a head coach. And then this year they're just not getting anything going. It's kind of crazy how much talent has come out of these draft classes at wide receiver, and then Jerry Jeudy just hasn't been able to click yet at the NFL level. So
he's the Corey Davis of our generation.
Yeah, maybe so. Drake London, 5K. Any interest here?
I think I'm just out on all things Falcons.
That's fine.
So sick of Arthur Smith and playing the guessing games. It's just, I'm telling you, man, right? He's going to be like, I don't even know like what the timing or whatever, who's going to end up clinching, but he's going to scoreboard watch and he's going to see that he's got no shot because Tampa Bay is going to win the division.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's just going to pull his guys.
That's probably true.
And he's just going to be like, yeah, screw it.
Demario Douglas is one of the highest rostered players of the slate right now.
Who?
Demario Douglas.
Okay. All right. I mean, listen, the Buffalo's got issues with their secondary, and you expect somebody to catch some passes there for New England, right? Yeah. So I'll look at Demario Douglas as being like a fine cash game play because he's super cheap and everybody's going to be in on him. So I'm happy to take that free square. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I don't think that there's any like real legitimate GPP tournament upside to Demario Douglas.
Yeah, he is early Jacoby Myers, right? He just doesn't find the end zone. He gets all the targets. Yeah. But Myers went 2 seasons without scoring a touchdown. So if Flowers sits, do you give like OBJ a look? Do you give Bateman a look? Do you give any of these Baltimore receivers a look?
Yeah, OBJ and Bateman both are warranting a look, especially if Flowers is going to be out. But again, it's all tournament play. It's not like we're not loving on the floor here.
Agreed. Anybody else Down here, do you chase the DJ Chark revenge game?
Did we not say Raheed Shaheed?
Oh, did we skip over him? Where is he?
Rashid
Yeah,
Shaheed?
46. Yeah, there you go.
I love him. But yeah, if you want to pay down, like you want like your bargain, like dart throw, Cedric Wilson.
Cedric Wilson's your dart throw. I know you said you were staying away from Carolina, but the Baby Shark revenge game against Jacksonville is right there in our face. Where is Cedric Wilson? Where is he?
36?
36. Oh, there he is. Yeah. I get that. I get behind it.
Right? No Waddle, Cedric Wilson. They paid him all that money. It all pays off now.
Yeah. Where's Berrios? Is he on IR? Is he playing?
I don't even know.
Didn't get any targets last week, so that's fine. Didn't play. Didn't look like he played last week. So just wondering. Berrios fits the slot every now and then, but definitely Cedric Wilson there. All right, let's go to tight end. Stop talking about these trash 3K wide receivers.
What? You don't want to talk about all these trash wide receivers?
That's fine.
Brian Johnson, come on, Denver, going up against the Chargers, 3,300.
Where is he at? 3K.
3,300. Brian Johnson.
Yeah, I guess so. Had touchdown, 5 targets. He had some games popping earlier this season. Who played more snaps? Was it him? Yeah, it was him over Mims.
I'll tell you right now what the snap share was.
Mims is Stone Cold Min 3K. Oh, not Mims. Marvin Mims. Marvin Mims was 3,500.
Marvin Mims played a 43% snap share last week behind 68% for Brandon Johnson, 58% for Lil Jordan Humphrey.
Oh, geez. Okay. That's fine.
Didn't I call Lil Jordan Humphrey touchdown a couple weeks ago?
You did. That happened. Tight end. Travis Kelce.
Nobody gives me my flowers for these things
anymore.
You
gotta tweet it, man. You gotta kind of pound your chest. Jeez. I don't know. We'll clip it if it happens again.
The problem is I do like 72 different shows in a week, so I never know where it was that I said it.
Yeah, you gotta start taking notes. Like said Jordan Humphrey on DFS show. You know?
Tight end.
Yeah. Kelce's your top tight end. Obviously, this is just a ridiculously good matchup, but it's funny to say that he has 90 for almost 1,005 scores. You're like, has this been a down year for Travis Kelce? Because it kind of has been, right? Like,
it's been a terrible year for Kelce overall.
Not in his personal life, but in his work life. More people talk about his podcast and his relationship than they do his on-field play, and maybe that's not a good thing, right?
It's not.
So you got him. You got McBride. 6 for 8, 31 yards. It wasn't a great match against Chicago to begin with. Philly's been kind of soft against tight ends this year. I mean, do you go back to Trey McBride?
I mean, I would go back to McBride. I mean, Philly's definitely, since they got Kevin Byard as a safety, and they are getting Avonte Maddox back, I think, this week. He might be back. So it's a little bit tougher of a matchup for McBride. The problem is, or the thing about it is, it's not really much of a problem, is that he's the target monster. Mm-hmm. For that team. Marquise Hollywood Brown is still banged up with the heel issue. He's not connecting with Kyler Murray. Michael Wilson is inconsistent. Greg Dortch is inconsistent. So, you look at McBride, he's that chain mover there. So, I like him a lot. If you're going to pay down from Kelce, if you're not going to pay up for Kelce, I think McBride's in a good spot. I don't mind Evan Engram, although I don't absolutely love it, especially because I think that they're just, we're dealing with so much inconsistency at the quarterback position.
Yeah.
So I kind of look at
Waller this week.
Yeah, I look at Waller. I look at Goddard. I look at maybe Isaiah Likely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Coop talked a lot about Waller and Tyrod Taylor earlier this year and their connection that they had. So he's a big fan of Darren Waller this week at 4,500. And you both have touted tight end matchups against the Rams all season long. So, he's definitely loving on some Waller in that mid-tier, likely as well against Miami. That game turns into a shootout. He also likes Kyle Pitts. I know you've been out on the Atlanta, as you mentioned, but Kyle Pitts has been looking a little better in recent weeks here. Chigakonkwo really coming through. I had Chick in the playbook, and he was in every example lineup last week, Howard. 6 for 63 in a score. He was like 4% rostered. Nobody played Chigakonkwo. I think you can go back to the well. Even though the price is up on him a little bit more, he's still under 4K. So I find that to be pretty reasonable.
Yeah, I like Okonkwo a lot. I mean, you've seen his A dot has increased over the last like 4 or 5 weeks. So they're starting to get him, feed him the ball a little bit more, which is always encouraging there. I like Okonkwo. Gerald Everett kind of intrigues me a little bit, just in the sense that for like maybe it's like a cash game pay down because like Denver's not good against the tight end. The only issue with Everett, obviously, is that he doesn't get into the end zone. But like Donald Parham was a healthy scratch last week. So maybe this new coaching regime that's replaced Brandon Staley, maybe that's why you got a little bit more out of Austin Eckler last week. Maybe that's why we got a little bit more out of Gerald Everett as well. So if this, if the interim coaching staff over at in Los Angeles is going to continue to ride these veterans here, then I think Everett is he's a very interesting option for me. But I kind of feel like that's as low as I want to go at the tight end position. It's gruesome below that.
Yeah, I like Gerald Everett a lot. The 3 straight weeks with 8 targets definitely stands out. Coop's thrown some flyers at Juwan Johnson back-to-back weeks with touchdowns, 7 targets last week. Snap shares started to increase there a little bit. So could have him on your radar. Obviously, Gesicki caught the touchdown last week with Hunter Henry out. I don't think we're going to be chasing that. If Hunter Henry's in, do you have any interest, though? I mean, Zappy was throwing the ball a lot to him here.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely there's like, I mean, it's a tournament play. It's a dart throw.
Okay. Let's go on over to defenses. 49ers, your top defense at $4,200. Eagles, your second at 4K. The chalk defense of the week here, Howard, is actually the spend down. People are going to the Denver Broncos this week. They're currently listed as the highest rostered defense. How are you feeling about that? Because Denver has not been a good defense this season.
They haven't been a great defense this season. I think it's a matter of, just Easton Stick just not being a strong quarterback. I think it's fine if you want to pay down for the Broncos there at 2,900. I'm not against that. There aren't any defenses that are like super low, but below that make you want to do anything. I'm not going to use the Patriots against the Bills.
No.
Even though, I mean, I'll bet you the Giants end up doing something stupid this week, like, at 2,500. But, beyond that, I think that the Texans defense is probably the defense that I like as far as a pay down goes the most. I think that they're, decent sack total, decent pass rush. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be Tannehill or if it's going to be Will Levis.
Yeah, I have the Ravens defense in lineups this week.
Okay.
I know I'm not necessarily chasing the 5 interception game, but they give up the fewest points per game in football this year. They do get after the quarterback. They have playmakers, no Jalen Waddle. Tua's numbers on the road this year are drastically worse than they are when he's at home. And if you just look at when Tua's faced like good defenses, his numbers haven't been that good here either. So while I agree with you, I'm sure Mike McDaniel will cook something up. And this game has a high game total. I think it feels a little disrespectful to Baltimore's defense here. So I do like them at home here at $2,800.
Nice.
Other than that, you can just spend up like 49.
Yeah, I mean, I love the Bears at 3,400. I think that's a great defense to lock into. Again, it's a matter of what fits your budget. I wouldn't go like, I mean, yes, you could pay down to 2,800 to the Ravens and feel okay about that and just kind of hope for the best. But, I think like the middle, that mid range at 3,000 to 3,500 is probably, where most people are going to end up living.
Yeah, no arguments. No arguments here. Again, Coop's talking up Jacksonville's defense, against Carolina. Carolina's not going to be able to run the football at all, which means they're probably going to have to try and throw. Certainly could get some forced interceptions or sacks here for Jacksonville 38. You got a lineup?
I mean, I was just kind of playing around with it. It's not anything that I'm finalizing, but here you go. You can go to CJ Stroud and welcome him back.
Okay.
McCaffrey, Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Okay.
Nico Collins,
Mm-hmm.
Rashid Shaheed,
Collins, Shaheed. Okay.
Cedric the Entertainer,
Oh, we getting there. Okay.
Darren Waller,
Waller.
a guy we didn't even mention,
Okay.
but definitely warrants the attention here, Demarcus Robinson.
Okay. I skimmed through him when we were talking Cooper Kupp and Nakua, but no arguments. 46, 4 straight games of touchdown, I think.
Give yourself the Bears defense there, Johnny.
Bears defense. I'm in. Been sold. That one works for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, listen, there's a lot of different directions that we can go in, if you want to, if you're thinking about fading McCaffrey, there's not really a lot of correlation going on in this lineup, although I guess, Waller with Demarcus Robinson is my correlation there. But, this is just kind of these are players who we definitely like, who interest us. And then we'll kind of maneuver around. Did you build the lineup, Johnny?
I have a preliminary build here.
Oh, I'd like to see your preliminary build.
So I went same thing with you. I went Stroud at the running back position. I went more in the mid tier. I did Eckler.
Ugh.
I know. I figured you wouldn't get that. I did Najee Harris.
Okay, I don't mind that.
And then I did at wide receiver. I did Nico Collins. I did use Demario Douglas, and then I had, what was the 6K range play? I had Godwin. Tight end, I went with Waller as well. Running back, Ravens defense. And then flex play, where was it? What was my flex play? I think I had, what was Javonte for now? We got $700 left over. I think I can play with this a little bit more. Running back 57. Yeah, maybe I went up from Eckler. I had it out and then I cleared it out when we did yours. So let's go back to Najee Harris there.
Ooh, are you playing the 22-22?
No, I wish. I wish I had that outside. I'll play around with that. I had $700 left over. I thought I had less, but maybe this is the lineup that I was building on my other screen here.
Okay.
So just some example lineups for everybody. Again, Bender will have the playbook in the dartboard on Saturday. We'll have the example lineups out on Sunday. We'll do the live streams here Sunday 9 to 10. Then Bender and Coop 10 to 11 on XM. Coop and I 11 to 12, getting you all ready for the NFL Week 17 action here. Howard, any final thoughts for the people at home?
No, if you guys are looking to bet the game, John and I will be doing a betting show, the Better Sports betting show, Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern. That'll be available on the Fantasy Alarm YouTube page as well. So
yes, it will.
That's what we got for you.
That's what we got for you, everybody. Good luck, Week 17. Get us on Twitter. Find us on Discord. We'll catch y'all later.